It's going to be a very, very intense journey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 148, I think, of the Frameskip podcast. I hope that's right. I am Andie Eller. I haven't hosted in a long time because Seth has been stealing all the spotlight. Seth, the host himself, the host with the most. Slake House, how's it going?
It's going all right. I have been in a constant state of anxiety because I'm worried I have early onset Alzheimer's.
Doesn't usually hit people in their 30s, but walk us through it.
Well,
show us your work.
You're right.
Yeah, how is this possible?
So, but you actually do get it in your late 20s, early 30s. Your brain is just compensating for it until it hits like a point of no return, and then people get diagnosed. That's why it's so rough.
I see.
So ever since I read that, I've been like, every time I can't think of a word or something or a memory, I'm like,
it's coming. It's coming.
Like I had that like mental breakdown about Athens, Georgia that I was telling you guys about.
Yeah.
Where I vividly remember walking down this street and I can't remember what town that is. Not good.
Seth, I hear you. Have you considered the fact, and I mean this with all due respect and love, have you considered the fact that you're just fucking stupid?
No,
that's
impossible.
Gotta be the Alzheimer's.
Actually, yeah, he forgot about that possibility because of the Alzheimer's.
Okay, I see.
But speaking of people that have perfectly normal memories, the other voice you're hearing is George from Shortbox Summary.
Woo. I've been forgetful too. I've been forgetting really dumb basic things, and I think it's a couple things. I think it's, you mentioned that you've been riding high anxiety. I think anxiety makes you forget stuff because you're focusing so much on other shit that you forget about. So, also, we're exposed to more information in a single day than people 100 years ago were getting probably in 6 months to a year. Like, there's just so much going on where it's like, oh, hey, I can't believe like that big school shooting, where you're like, which one? Like which school shooting are you talking about? Like a national tragedy is immediately wiped away by the preceding national tragedy. You know, like everyone was talking about Columbine forever. And then it just happened so often that it's like, yeah, that was a really bad school shooting. Which one? You know, or like movies, TV shows. We watch more TV shows in a month than I did the first 10 years I was alive, probably. You only got so much hard drive space, baby.
This got very serious.
Speaking of going back like 100 years, have you guys ever thought about going back in time and pretending like you're like a wizard?
No.
I haven't thought about
going back in time with like going back in time like 400 years with a gun and like all the knowledge of science you have as a modern man, and being like, I'm the king now.
Two things. That's one. Yeah. That's a Dave Bargatze joke, right? Where it's just like, yeah, I thought about if I went back in time, I would never be able to prove it. It'd be like, yeah, you know, one day people will walk around with little computers in their pockets that they can make calls with and be connected to everyone in the world. They're like, wow, that's incredible. How does it work? And he's like, I don't know. That, and then there's also a video game coming out about that where you're like in a car, and you have guns, and you go like back in time.
Wait,
and you're
really?
fighting medieval shit. Yeah. So you're doing medieval fights, and you're also like commanding an army, but like you have like a fucking GTO Charger and like a
what?
And like,
what is the name of this game?
I don't remember.
I can't remember, but Fabio is super.
It was trending on Twitter a couple weeks ago.
I have never heard of this. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it does look really cool. I mean, the gameplay doesn't look awesome, but the concept is really cool. But yeah, I think about going back and being like, gunpowder, it's gonna be big. Right.
Okay, but like, do you know how to make gunpowder? Like, how relevant?
No, but I do know it came from China. So, say I go back into like England, right? like 600 years ago. I'm like, we got to go to China.
You're like Steve Jobs, how like he didn't know how to design any of the technology, but he was like, no, the phone, it's too big. They're like, there's no more space, and he like dropped an iPhone in like a glass of water and just like waited. And then the second like air bubbles came up, he's like, see, there's space in there, we can make it smaller.
Or like, and you go back, you're like, hey, let's get some running water up in this bitch.
Yeah, that was going to be my next thing. It's like, hey, indoor plumbing, cool, how does that work? No clue. But it's, think about it, like you're just like the ideas guy. You're like, what if we put someone on the moon? It's like, yeah, that'd be really cool. Do we put them in like a bullet and shoot a gun at the moon base? It's like, sort of, yeah. I think. Yes.
Like, let's go talk to these Romans. I hear they got some aqueducts. Let's get some running water up in here. You know,
I'd be so bad. Like, how quickly before you did like the Biff from Back to the Future Part 2 and just started betting on
that's
the
gotta
events of
be
future out?
That's got to be like instantaneously, right? I mean, that's got to be like the first thing you do.
If it's like 40 years, like if I go back like 40 years, I'm set, right? I just got to make like the first $100, and then I'm good. But maybe that first $100 is probably gonna be a little rough. If I go back, like 800 years, I got bigger fish to fry, right? I gotta find clean water.
Yeah,
I gotta kill the king probably and take a spot so I get servants. I'm not doing all that manual labor,
I like how you have a chance to usher in a utopia of like understanding and civil engineering, and you're like, no, I want to be the king, bitch. Like,
well, they're not going to listen to me unless I'm the king. Like, here's the thing: if I just start throwing out these ideas, they're going to think me some sort of heretic or wizard or something. They're going to try and kill me. Gonna fail, right? But they're going to be mean to me. If I'm the king, I'm gonna be like, hey,
if you went back in time to like, let's say the 1300s, and you became king, would you be like, guys, I got a really good idea. What if we just put people on boats and went west? Like, what if we just did that? Like, how?
Discover America.
Yeah, how long before you discovered America? If you went back to the 1300s,
instead of Columbus Day, it's Seth Day.
Yeah, and it's just like you.
Probably
like, they would never be
day.
Well, they would never be called.
God.
They would never be called Indians, right? Because you'd be like, I know this isn't fucking India. I know it's not India.
No, I'd pick a cooler word. I'd be like, I don't know.
Tread carefully.
Yeah, I don't know.
Americans.
I'm not good at making up words.
Americans is a good name for them.
and here's what you're going to say. You're going to say, guys, we're going to go over here. We're going to take a look at these people. Some of y'all can stay behind, and you guys can start your own country, and it's going to be better than ours. So just go ahead and do it.
But in the meantime, though, keep paying me taxes. No, you don't get to vote.
About 200 years, they're going to try and revolt. Just let them do their thing. All right, we're not going to get in that fight.
Let them kill us.
They're on to something. Yeah.
You guys are going to want to burn down the White House. Bad move. Going to tell you that right now.
Also, slave labor. Just don't do it. Just don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't do it. Let's just nip that one in the bud right now. No slaves.
This is a hot podcast already. I love it. But yeah, if I could go back with a machine gun, I'd be set.
Ooh.
Would you like try to find a blacksmith to like teach and be like, hey, I need like 800 more of these things. They're called bullets. Because at that point, I feel like it'd be kind of like Metro, where it's like the ones you find are better than the ones you make. Yeah. But you're not going to find any because it's fucking 1,200. And I assume with your luck, you're going to try to go back to England where they speak English, but you're going to fuck it up and you're like land in Portugal somewhere. And then you're going to try to make the Portuguese learn English, and it's just not going to go well.
Well, once I ran out of like bullets that I brought back with me, I'd probably convert to like muzzle loader type firearm, because we used to reload shells for the shooting competitions I did. The hardest part wouldn't be like the bullet or the casing or the gunpowder. It'd be getting the primer. This primer's the little exploding caps in the back of the gun.
Yeah,
shell.
it's probably mostly magnesium. I think you're good. You know what you should do? You should study where magnesium mines are, wherever you plan to go back in time to. And
get some slaves.
So
mine magnesium mines.
No. We already talked about this.
Oh, we talked about that. That's right. Sorry.
Seth, do better. Be better.
I thought I was going on the same vibe.
So here's my question. Like, what, obviously guns, cell phones, like there are some obvious things you could take back to the past. What is like the most nonsensical item that you could take back to the past that would have like major implications?
Seth would bring some
not
porn.
Like an obvious, like a laptop or
Seth would bring some porn so he could crank it.
Something that would be like a game changer would be like a pump, like a small pump, right? Like a water pump.
I like that.
Check this out.
I like that.
What about like a bicycle? You just like introduce the concept of bikes to people 800 years before they were supposed to be around.
That's nice.
I don't know.
Like what if you went back in time and you just completely removed a dependence on carbon, like fossil fuels?
I don't think you could. Like, our whole technology is based on a fundamental like carbon system right now.
I hear you, but also like you're telling me in the past 200 years we haven't come up with something better than the fucking combustion engine. Like it's fundamentally the same thing that they were using in the 1800s in the UK. Like, come on, man. Like we got to be better than that. It's been 250 years since the Industrial Revolution. We can do fucking better.
Sure, but I know how to make a combustion engine. I mean, I not how to make one, but I can like, I can like
by hand.
lay out like the theory of it, right? I can't lay out the theory of an electrical engine. I fucking know how those things work.
That's what the bike's for, dipshit. Like, go back and just teach them about chains and pedals. It'll be fine.
Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take back a spork, and we're gonna change the history of the human race, and the spork is gonna become the dominant utensil moving forward. So that's what I'm gonna do.
I mean, realistically, the thing to take back that would just like fuck everything. It would be like a history book.
Yeah,
Right?
true.
But then you're in a trap because then you're like an asshole who's fucking with the time continuum if you don't do everything in the book. And it's like, hey man, there's just a chance to do better. Let's be better.
George, I'm pretty sure the second I go back and kill the king, it's over. Like we're in a whole new timeline.
Not really, man. Like kings die all the time of like dysentery or whatever fucking weird inbred disease they got because
That's
like,
what
their
they
mom
say.
is also
That's
their
what they say.
cousin.
But what if Seth actually killed these kings?
That's the rumor. That's the rumor that the king of Barcelona, like the reason they speak with like a lisp in Barcelona, Spain, like it's not Barcelona, it's Barcelona. And the reason, like the rumor I've heard, and it's like urban legend at this point. I'm sure there's a way to check it. I never have, just because I like this story so much. But everyone started speaking that way because the king had a lisp, and they just thought like they were being polite, talking like their leader.
God.
But the king had a lisp because he was so fucking European royalty inbred, you know. That is just like, oh, he just like couldn't develop a speech pattern. I'm not trying to make fun of people with lisp, by the way. But that is just like the story I heard about this particular Barcelonian king.
Is it really Barcelona?
Yeah, they pronounce like every C or S they pronounce like with a lisp.
Oh, that's how they pronounce it. Okay,
Yeah.
I thought you were saying that's actually how it's supposed to be pronounced.
I mean, in Barcelona it is, but everywhere else in Spain does not speak like that, so they call it Barcelona, and then everyone there calls it Barcelona.
This podcast went like 0 to 60 in a span of 10 minutes into like
We talked about
the
school
most
shootings.
intense
We
rabbit
talked
hole.
about school shootings, regicide. I believe that's what it's called when
Yeah,
you kill a
regicide.
king. Right?
You got it.
The #1 video game regicide podcast on the internet right now.
Nice. Pretty soon we're gonna rank video games where you can kill the king in them. I'm sure there are many.
Halo 2, when you jump on the chair and start punching the prophet of truth to death. That's gonna be up there.
Well, what's going on, guys? It's been a couple weeks. Last week we were going to stream, but Battlefront 2 came out, or Battlefront 1 and 2 came out, the collection, and absolutely sucked. So we did not end up streaming that.
I didn't even buy it.
I pre-ordered it,
did.
and then I canceled the pre-order and refunded.
I did buy. I pre-ordered it on PlayStation. I downloaded it. It was a really small file. It was like 14 gigabytes the night I got it. I immediately started playing it. I thought something was up. I didn't even try to play the multiplayer. I didn't want to play the multiplayer. I really just wanted to go in and do like the story for Battlefront 2. And
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I never had online growing up. So like, I never think of those games as online shooters.
Right.
And so I just wanted to mess around, do my instant action, do my galactic conquest. I knew something was up when I downloaded it, and the menu for selecting Battlefront 1 or Battlefront 2 looked nothing like any of the review screens I've seen about downloading Battlefront 1 or Battlefront 2. I played for probably 4 hours. I got a quarter of the way, halfway on some of the trophies, because I really wanted to be one of the first people to platinum it. And then I downloaded, there was a 17 gigabyte update that came out the next day, and I was like, fuck, that's bigger than the game. That's not a great sign. But hey, maybe this will fix things, because I heard that the multiplayer is pretty bad. Downloaded it. It completely corrupted all of my save files that I had for both Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2. So I had to start completely over, lost all my progress towards my trophies. And then the game actually looked worse and ran worse. Although one thing they did, the AI was such a bastard on the first version, and then the AI was immediately behaved more normally, because I have hundreds of hours into the original Battlefront and Battlefront 2. Like, those are probably my most played games from high school.
Right.
And it got to the point where like the backwards compatible version on Xbox was just like better of both of the games. It was just straight up better than this remastered port. Aspyr has been porting games for 25 years. I don't understand how they're still so fucking bad at it. I just don't get it.
I have a theory that this was like not on purpose, but they knew they could get away with it. Dude, they released the game with servers that supported 200 people on launch. 200 for a Star Wars game. Like
arguably the most popular Star Wars games of all time.
Yeah, they definitely knew that was not going to fly. And I think they were just like, all right, well, whatever. We'll release it. These idiots won't get refunds. We'll get our money. We can add servers later if they don't get over it. That's kind of how I feel. That has to be the only solution or the only explanation, because how else did they think that was going to happen? You know, I don't know.
Yeah,
But not only that, I heard that even when you did get into a game, it like didn't work at all. It was there's a rubber banding and lag. That was horrible. I don't know.
I played a couple matches. It's still not awesome after the update, and I saw like some optimistic post from PC Gamer, and I'm like, fuck you. Like, don't talk about it like that. Like, these guys, like, I understand it's hard to do a game, right? Like, I understand it's hard to make a game. I understand it's hard to release a game. I understand it's a expensive endeavor and all that shit. I get that. But, like, there has to be some kind of standard. There has to be some kind of expectation when you tell me that you're releasing a game, especially a game of this magnitude, a game of this reputation, a game of this stature. Like, there has to be some kind of bare minimum that we can agree on, and they couldn't meet the bare minimum of expectations. Like, they should be fucking embarrassed. I can't believe that even for half a second people thought they were going to remaster Knights of the Old Republic. Like, we were making fun of that when it was announced at that Sony press conference, right? Like in December 2 years ago. Even then, I'm like, yeah, they're really good at bringing Star Wars Empire at War from PC to Mac 10 years after it came out on PC. They didn't bring the expansion, and they never made that available. So there's just like a third of the game is just not there. But like they're good at that. And like all I can think about is, did you guys ever see that movie Out Cold?
No.
There's one scene where like this dumb guy is like trying to give advice, and the guy is just like, hey man, like, if I want advice on how to get the resin out of my bong, or like what's a good Planet of the Apes film, like I'll come to you, but like I'm not going to take romantic advice from someone who can't spell romantic or advice or bong. Like I refuse to do that. And it's like these guys are that fucking idiot from that movie. Like, I know it's not as simple as pressing copy paste, but if you told me they had only pressed copy paste for this port, like I would believe you. Like it was laughably bad.
Dude, it's
these
crazy.
Are the same guys. Sorry, go ahead, Austin.
No, I was just gonna say it's crazy too, because like they have such a long track record, George, and I didn't realize this until the other day, and I've got this pulled up now again. They've been around for like almost 3 decades at this point, working on porting stuff. They started with, I don't even know this game, Bonk Heads, back in 1997. And every year since then, they've had like at least 5-6 games that they've ported. And starting in like the mid 2000s, it got to like 10 per year. And I mean, like even recently,
I've known Aspire since I was in high school.
Yeah.
Like I got a MacBook Pro and I bought Empire at War because I could finally, like I never had a PC. I could finally play that game.
Even recently, I didn't realize they did this, that Lara Croft Tomb Raider 1 through 3 remaster that was like pretty highly praised. That was them. And I didn't know that. And that was like a bit more than a port. I mean, that was like more of a, you know, a full on kind of not remake, but an HD kind of upgrade. And so point aside, what I'm trying to get at here is this team's been around for nearly 3 decades. I just don't understand how you can see something like Star Wars Battlefront. Obviously, that's going to be like a massively hyped release, and then just completely botch it in every single way. And I shared something with you guys a couple days ago, it might have been last night, about how also, on top of this, apparently some of the content in the game was literally straight up ripped from community mods that was taken without those modders' permission, or, you know, there was no credit at all for that. And to the point where there are glitches that were present in those mods that are now present in this HD upgrade. So it's very clear that those mods, you know, the code for those mods are in this without credit. So there's some weird stuff with this. I don't exactly know what happened here, but like, this has got to be one of the most botched launches I've seen, I guess, really since like Cyberpunk, maybe.
I mean, I think I would at least Cyberpunk was playable, right?
Yeah.
On like in some way. This I from what I've seen is like pretty much unplayable. But what I wanted to say was these guys are also the guys that messed up the Knights of the Republic 2 port. Because they sold the game with the promise that they were going to add in all the mod content that was canceled in the original release. And then like they kept delaying it, and then they just ended up canceling it, even though that content's already done, and all they had to do was like really add it into the game. And they just never did. And I don't know, at some point I wonder when Disney gets involved, right? And they're like, no more of our games for you. You know, like, you guys screwed this up.
What games are left though? Like at this point, like it's like really just Rogue Squadron.
That's it.
And Shadows of the Empire, I guess, is technically, but like that game is fucking borked. Like, when was the last time you guys tried playing that game?
Never.
I don't know that I ever have.
You've never played it? Oh, it is just like an awful 3D action platformer that's like beloved because, you know, there's one level where you play as Snowspeeder and you're trying to knock down AT-ATs. And like that level, everyone's just like, yeah, this is the most fun. Like maybe we should make a game about this. And then those guys went on to make Rogue Squadron.
Yeah.
So like it's like Rogue Squadron is left, and I guess technically like Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, which is like kind of a beloved game.
Well, I don't think there's a real modern way to play the Jedi Knight series, is there? Like Star Wars.
They ported them.
Did they?
Yeah.
I thought they just did the first one.
Oh no, they've done Outcast and yeah. They actually just did the most. They did like the missing one, I think, and then they just did Dark Forces, was just like upresed and remastered and stuff.
That was not them though, to be fair.
No, that was absolutely not Aspire.
What about Dark Forces 2? Is that
no?
I think
that one.
No, that is one they have not done.
But the team that did the Quake remasters did the Dark Forces remaster that just came out like last month, and apparently it's incredible. So I'm sure that
probably why it's so good. Yeah.
I'm sure they'll do Dark Forces 2 at some point. But yeah, that's crazy, George. Especially the save corruption, man. That always blows. Anytime you get a game and you're like a decent amount of the way into it and your save corrupts. That happened to me with Yakuza 0. I got like 6 or 7 hours in on PS4 years ago, and my entire PS4 hard drive corrupted. And because I was game sharing with someone at the time, my saves were not auto uploading to the cloud. And so I just lost 7 hours of that game. And then for that reason, I've just never gone back because I'm like, this sucks. So.
Yeah, that actually, I know it's off topic, but that actually happened to me with The Last of Us. Remember The Last of Us had that huge issue with you couldn't save in the game. And I played like 6 hours the first day it came out, and I lost all that and completely ruined my momentum for the rest of the game. Yeah. I think that's why I did not have a high opinion of The Last of Us as everyone else, because I played through it the whole time like with a frown on my face. I'm like, this blows.
That was such a common bug too. I knew several people that had that happen.
Yeah, so. And I knew I had it too. And because what would happen is the save like selection was just grayed out in the menu. You couldn't click on it. Yeah. And I thought it was weird. And I just kept playing. And then I saw online, because I thought maybe it was like quick saving or like, you know, I don't know. And then I saw online that people were saying that there was like a huge issue with you couldn't save in the game. So that was a big bummer.
I mean, we talked about this recently where like games are getting bigger and more expensive. And like part of that is just like shit gets more complicated. Yeah. And that's not like a good thing, right? You know, like there's no real reason that should happen from a Naughty Dog game from Sony. Yeah. But hey, these games are huge. These games are asking a lot, you know. It's unfortunate, and it's like I think a good reason to is like let's maybe focus on smaller games.
Just while we're
Maybe.
on the topic of that and Star Wars games, I upgraded my computer recently. Got a new graphics card and a few other upgrades that I made, but I was checking out the Steam Spring Sale because that's going on right now. A ton of games on sale. Grabbed a few. But one that was on there was Jedi Survivor, which is on sale for $30. And dude, that game came out a little under a year ago now. Apparently, it is still an absolute mess on PC, which is shameful for a company of that size.
That's not surprising to me, because I've heard that like a lot of games recently have just been completely borked on PC. I don't play on my PC very much anymore because it's like inconvenient.
Yeah.
But I keep hearing that like PC gaming's in a rough state right now. Like almost every port or a big game that comes out has some sort of major issue on PC.
Yeah. It's just surprising though, like a year later, that they still have not fixed that game. But yeah, it does seem like a lot of the big titles are coming out kind of in rough shape. So, George, aside from the mess that is Battlefront, you've been playing or watching or doing anything else over the past couple weeks?
I've watched 4.5 seasons of Golden Girls since the last time we recorded. That show's pretty amazing.
Oh,
nice.
I was mainlining X-Men, the animated series, because I believe tonight at midnight, X-Men 97 comes out, like the sequel series.
Yeah.
Which I am pretty excited about, but I haven't finished my rewatch. I might just jump to the last. Like I've seen all those, like I was there when they were coming out, so
right.
I might just jump ahead. But no, that's pretty much it. It's Battlefront and Helldivers, man. And Helldivers is really doing something to like one of my friend groups. I have like 4 group chats going on. You're one of them. Then I got like my friends from San Francisco is another. My local friends here, and then like other friends from San Francisco who are like pretty much just like a gamer focused group. Like that's where like Fabio, Colin, and my buddy Jamie, and like we play together every Tuesday actually. So after we record here, I'm gonna jump on and play with them. But Helldivers has been really exciting outside of a gameplay perspective, where just like the news trickling out, the way they're presenting this game about how like, oh, there's reports of like blue fire coming, and like we think it's this alien group, and like the CEO of the company coming out and being like, no, that's a lie. Like that would never happen. Like there's no way that this group of species is coming back. And then having him like deny, and then all of a sudden like admit it's true. Like the way it is, just like a failed propaganda in like a fascist state. Like it's really fucking good, man. Everything about this game. It just like seeing like the stuff online of just like rumors and leaks of like a new like mech suit that's coming out that's like anti-air focus, all this stuff. It's just really exciting like throughout the day. Like this is the closest I've gotten with my nerd video game friends to being like, oh shit, dude, I heard Saquon got traded, or like Saquon, he like didn't resign with the Giants. He's going to the Eagles. Like it's the closest thing to like a sports feeling I've ever had with like this non-sports group of friends. It's been really fun.
Yeah, it is. It's really, I would say, I don't know. It's sort of like a culture phenomenon, right? Like it's one of those like special games. It kind of just takes people by storm, and everyone's talking about it. And dude, they're doing everything right. The way they're introducing stuff into the game, the way they're like not saying things, and they're leaving the community to like speculate about it. They're doing everything right. They're keeping like the mystery going, and like, you never really know when something's gonna drop. Super cool. I can't wait to get back to Helldivers once I beat Final Fantasy.
So I've spent so much money in it already. Like I've already got like $40 worth of like in-game credit because I bought like the first war bond, then I bought the second war bond, and then I just wanted to like extra in-game currency just in case I saw an armor I liked, and wanted to grab that faster. Like they figured it out, which is weird because it doesn't feel that different from so many other things. And I'm just like, EA, how much more money are you really making by not doing it like this? Like, yeah, you got your whales that you're going after, like the dudes who spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars each year in my Ultimate Team, but like, what about the casuals out there, man? Like,
yeah,
I'm a huge Patriots fan. Like, how is there no like Patriots specific or like team specific, whatever you want to do in Madden to like just get extra money out of me in like a respectful way?
Right.
Because I think that's what it comes down to is I don't feel disrespected spending money in this game. I don't feel like I have to. I feel like I genuinely want to.
No, and you get so much when you buy those premium war bonds, man. And I know Halo Infinite kind of did it first, just in a much worse way, but the fact that you can buy them and they don't expire, huge. Essentially being battle passes, that's a huge deal. And I've bought both of them, and I'm like you, George. I've bought some of the credit for use for purchasing the other armor pieces and whatnot, and certainly I think a lot of it, to me at least, justifying it, of course, is the fact that it launched at $40. But I mean, I don't know, man. That game is excellent. I will say this. I've been playing some here and there. When we built or did our PC upgrade, we bought Helldivers on PC so that the two of us could play together, her on PC and me on PS5. That crossplay is still pretty broken, and I did not know that. The rest of the game they've pretty much fixed, but Andy and I, and this is an extremely common issue, you can't send each other friend requests still if you're
it says they're offline.
Yeah. And
it's still kind of fucked on PlayStation 5, to be honest.
There's still a lot of issues with the game.
Playing with other PS5 people. Like my friends who I know are online, I'm in a party with them and I can see on the PlayStation menu that they're online playing Helldivers, trying to join their party. It says they're offline in Helldivers. I'm like, I know that's not true. I can literally hear them shooting bugs in the background.
That's kind of killed my excitement like a little bit. I'm still playing it, just not as much. But like Andy and I, anytime we play now, one of us has to go find like the lowest possible planet, like the one that the least amount of people are on, set it to the lowest difficulty, join a mission, and just hope that the other person can find that mission on the map, which sucks. It's just a terrible way to go about it. But I still think it's great. I still think everything they're doing is great. I just wish that some of the big problems like that crossplay issue, I wish there would be some quick resolution, but the game's been out for like almost a month now and it's still not fixed. So
I think it's
first 2 weeks they're dealing with server issues, right?
True.
There's something going on specific with the crossplay issue, because all my friends at work that play Helldivers, when I play with them, they're all on PC, and I got it on PS5. It's always the same people I can join or can't join. So like the one guy, I've never been able to join his game one time.
Yeah.
And it always says offline. The other one, it does work the way it's supposed to. So I don't know if it's something regarding like network infrastructure or like I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, so I've been reading into this. Apparently, it's just for some reason, select Steam usernames cause the problem. Because just for no reason whatsoever. I played with two buddies of mine from high school and was able to add them perfectly fine, and they're both on PC and I'm on PS5. But then the second it comes to Andy, for some reason, her Steam username just
too many
does
vowels.
Not work.
Too many vowels.
Yeah.
Don't want to play with this person. Too many vowels.
So it's a bit of a mess, but I still think the game's awesome.
Yeah.
So, Seth, what have you been up to aside from Helldivers?
Well, I actually haven't been up to Helldivers really at all since Final Fantasy came out. Since Final Fantasy came out, I've just been playing Final Fantasy. It's a big game, dude. I'm 60 hours in. I'm playing it really whenever I can. And I'm having a blast with it still. I really don't have much else to say other than just complete glowing praise for the way the characters are written and the depth of the combat system and the absolutely absurd level of detail in the open world. I do find it super fucking annoying though, the way the Final Fantasy community is. And I will even go as far to say as I hate them because they always have something to complain about, dude. I'm so tired of the Final Fantasy fans online. I am a huge Final Fantasy fan, right? Like I love this series. It's probably my favorite series of all time. And this community has been so annoying ever since like, I don't know, 13 came out, I would say. Maybe you could even go back to 12 because people were ripping 12 up pretty bad. And I think 12 kind of deserves it. But dude, I'm so tired of seeing. I joined this group on Facebook called JRPG Gamers Over 30, and there's people legitimately in this group that are saying that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a 6.5 out of 10, and I'm like, you guys are actually just idiots. Like, because they're like, oh, I can't believe that they deviated so much from the original game, and that the combat is action based and it's not turn based at all, and I'm so tired of it. And I jumped in there, I tore them up, like, listen, you guys can still play turn based JRPGs. Like, Square made 2 of them last year. They're still there. This is, I don't know what you guys are even complaining about. The original 7 is still around, and you can play it very easily on every single console. You can even on PC upgrade it to look a lot better. And I don't know what you wanted. This game was never going to be just like 7, but with modern characters. It wouldn't even look right. These people are just stupid. They're just like low IQ idiots. They had the same arguments with Final Fantasy 16. Dude, Final Fantasy 16 was getting torn up because it was an action RPG. Final Fantasy 16 is phenomenal. It's like a fucking great game. And people were saying the same thing about that. It's like, dude, go play Bravely Default and shut your mouth. I'm so tired. Dude, and just like it's rampant all over the place. Every single place on the internet I go is filled with these idiots complaining about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And the game is great. It's better than great. It's like probably one of the best games I've ever played in my life. And the other thing I gotta say about it is, like, dude, plays real nice on the Portal. I got that PlayStation Portal, and
what do you think about that thing?
Flabbergasted, dude. It's so good. It's so good. So here's what motivated me to get it, because I wasn't gonna get it because I had the Steam Deck, right? Well, I wanted to be able to play remote play outside of my house, but there's a couple issues. And the first one is that unless you get the officially supported backbone, you can't use controllers through the official remote play app on your phone. So like, there's a separate app called PS Play that's like fan created, and that will work, but it doesn't work great. There's still some issues with it. If you want to use your Steam Deck, you have to use a third party app called Chiaki for Deck. And getting that thing set up to work outside your home network is like a massive pain. It doesn't work very well. So after fiddling with that for a while, I'm like, oh man, this kind of sucks. And I was playing it on my phone, but then like I want to have my phone on me at the same time, so that kind of gets annoying. I was like, all right, well, I'll just jump on the Portal. And I was thinking about it, and I saw that it was always sold out. Every time I looked at it, it was always sold out. And then one guy at work one day, he was like, oh, hey, did you know the Portals are back in stock? And I'm like, what? No. He goes, yeah, they just came up on PlayStation Direct. I got a notification on Facebook, and I saw it, and I was like, oh, I'm going to buy that right now. So I did. And dude, it works great. I don't know. I have this theory in my head that PlayStation prioritizes their own traffic with their remote play. Because I noticed that just inside my house, like remote playing from PS5 to PS4 and from PS5 to my PS TV works way better than like to my phone or my deck. So I really do think that I don't know if it's their technology or because those devices are built for that or whatever, but the official PlayStation devices work way better with remote play. And the Portal I can play with no noticeable input lag whatsoever.
Interesting.
And like normally when you remote play, and then I'm talking about in my home internet. And normally when you remote play, you can still tell you're remote playing. It doesn't feel exactly right. With when I'm playing my Portal at home, I cannot see any noticeable input lag whatsoever. And the picture's beautiful. The screen's really good. When I'm at work, it's how normal remote play is, where it's like it's you can still play it, it's tolerable, but you can tell you're remote playing. But yeah, I'm getting a lot of use out of it.
You know, when the Portal first came out, frankly, everything I saw was like people crapping on it.
Yeah.
And then over time, I'm seeing more and more people essentially saying what you're saying, which is that it's like actually a really good piece of hardware.
The IGN review was really positive, and that made me in particular really happy because Seth Macy reviewed it. And Seth Macy lives like 2 hours away from me, like in Maine. So the fact that it was like working in Maine, which has like pretty shitty infrastructure for internet, to be honest, that gave me some confidence in the product. I just can't buy, like, after PlayStation VR. I'm like, no, like I want like a more confident product from Sony, because I bought PSVR 2, and that was like really fun the first like 40 hours I played it, and then I haven't touched it since like that first week I had it.
Neither has Sony.
Yep.
What do you guys?
No, I'm aware.
What do you guys, on that topic, what do you guys think about that thing from Bloomberg that came out saying that Sony's apparently stopped all production on PSVR 2 because they've got such a backlog of units?
I'm not surprised, and I don't know how they keep making this mistake and how they can't see that it's their own issue.
Yeah.
You know?
It's very interesting. I know.
I understand not wanting to lose money on hardware, right? And like that was always like Nintendo's thing, where they never want to lose money on hardware. At a certain point, though, like you have to fucking eat on hardware, especially like, you guys know how, like, I think we talked about this, but like there was that picture of a receipt going around where someone went to Five Guys,
dude,
right? And it was like $24.
Yes.
And like, unfortunately, like I get that. That's how much it costs to get a burger, right? And like you saw the receipt, it was perfectly itemized, right? Burger itself was $12. I think a Five Guys burger is worth $12. I got like a regular fry, which is like the huge fucking fry that's like half a doggy bag full of French fries, for $6 or $7, and then like a drink was $3. It's like, yeah, dude, it says right there exactly how much it costs. But also, it's like, all right, so for PlayStation VR 2, that means like, do you want a PlayStation VR 2, or do you want 4 times 5, 20 trips to Five Guys, right? Like they need to eat it on the hardware, because like that's like their thing costs 20 times like a meal, which like doesn't sound that expensive, but like no one wants to spend $500 on something, but they will spend $500 in games over the next couple of years. So like you need to incentivize people to actually buy the hardware.
Well, and I still think the problem is with that whole setup is the fact that you have to pay $500 for the PS5, and then on top of that, another $500 for the PSVR, and that's just so cost prohibitive for most people.
And then like $70 for the charging dock, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, too, the other problem they've got is there were no games released for the thing. I mean, Horizon came out on it, and that, to my understanding, I guess there was also the Gran Turismo 7, like, I guess not DLC, but like the update,
like the patch. Yeah.
But like aside from that, I think that's the only like first party game that came out. I could be totally wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. So
that's the only one. I've only played Horizon and Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Those are the only 2 games I've played on it, and it costs
Galaxy's
$500.
Edge is shockingly good.
It's fucking awesome. It's really good. I'm not shitting on that, but I'm just saying, like, man, kind of wish there was more than 2 games I was like amped to play on this $500 device.
And then I know there's some still, pretty good third-party games on it, but at the end of the day, the PlayStation ecosystem is all about like the big, awesome exclusives. I mean, that's what's always driven it. And both times now with both of these things, they have not supported them. So it's interesting. But
it was so weird that they even made it. Right after the failure that was the original one, and then they're like, all right, let's make a new one. And
the original one wasn't a failure, though.
Well, okay, I guess it wasn't, but it died really quickly, I think, and they didn't really support it very much.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's how I felt anyway. I
it
felt
didn't really get too many games,
reason.
in my opinion, for first party perspective, at least. But as far as go ahead.
Wait, can we go back like 4 points that we were talking about?
Yes.
I want to talk to Seth about I got a Final Fantasy thing.
Okay.
So people were dogging on Final Fantasy 7 for in your 30 over 30 in JRPG shit group.
Yeah.
It sounds like a great place, by the way. You should shoot me an invite. So people are shitting on Final Fantasy for making the jump into like action. But you're right. Square is still releasing classic turn-based JRPGs. So I wonder, like, how come is it Capcom who does Yakuza or Sega? Sega, right?
Sega.
How come? Okay, so like I know they made the switch basically, and Yakuza is now like a turn-based RPG, right? Like that, or at least like turn-based combat. And then everything, like the action game that was Yakuza, became Judgment.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a single goddamn person complain once about that. I'm sure they're out there. I'm sure. I don't mean to discount any annoying corner of the internet. I'm sure it's there. But no one's there loud enough that I've heard about it. Like I go on Reddit, I go on Facebook, I'm in a bunch of gaming groups still. I haven't seen dick about that. Why do you think that's exempt from this argument that Square is not?
I think Yakuza fans are really fun, nice people. And I think Final Fantasy fans are miserable cunts is what it comes down to. And they've been that way for 20 years. Dude, I used to make fun of, like, there's probably old content, old podcasts. I used to make fun of these people that were like begging Square Enix for the Final Fantasy VII remake because they would dislike every video. They would like throw hate comments in every post because in 2006, Square made a mistake and showed Final Fantasy VII in HD on the PlayStation 3, right? And for like forever, there was mountains of comments and just people just being douchebags. Where's Final Fantasy VII? Where's the Final Fantasy VII remake? And it would be on like nonsensical stuff too, like a mobile game or something. And they would just constantly like anytime Square Enix put out something that wasn't even Final Fantasy related, they would just be, why are you wasting your time on this? You could be making the Final Fantasy VII remake. And I used to make fun of them all the time because they were miserable and they were really annoying. And they're still annoying to this day. Like I think these are the same people. I think like Final Fantasy old school fans, there's a bunch of them that are really awesome. I think there's a bunch of them that are just a ton of miserable cunts that are feeding on nostalgia. And here's the thing too, is that these idiots won't play like Bravely Default. They're only interested in Final Fantasy. And I just think it's because
Octopath. Yeah, they don't touch any of this stuff.
I just think they're idiots. I think they're like low IQ monkeys, like smashing a keyboard, smashing their head into a keyboard, playing with their dinosaurs afterwards. You know, like,
hey, nothing's wrong with
get
dinosaurs.
out of here. I'm so tired of them, dude. Like,
we want Final Fantasy Tactics. We released a 300-hour version of Final Fantasy Tactics called Project Triangle Strategy. No one bought it.
By the way,
you fucks played it.
Pedro in the chat, we were saying about how nice Yakuza fans are and how great they are. Pedro's in the chat and he says, I'm a Yakuza fan.
Yeah, Pedro is a Yakuza fan. Pedro's the one that has never left me alone about playing Yakuza. Because I played Yakuza Kiwami 2. Dude, it's so funny because I never touched Yakuza in my life. Pedro, before we lived together, played and beat Yakuza Kiwami.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, this is a game for you. And I'm like, yeah, I played it, not really into it. He goes, I think you should give it another chance. And I'm like, all right. So I kind of powered through the first. And once you like adjusted to like the old school style of combat of Yakuza, I really did love it. And then I started playing the second one. The second one was phenomenal. And then I got distracted. I forget from what. And
right.
I never went back. And he's been like pestering me forever to go back. But I will say this: I'm not playing 3, 4, and 5. I won't play the non-updated ones. I just don't have time for that. I did start 7 though, and I got pretty far into 7, and I liked it. So
I just wanted to say quickly before we get to our main topic, what I've been up to. Nothing really major of note, but been playing more Doom Eternal. I mentioned that a few weeks back, but now that we've upgraded our computer, I like slapped that bad boy on 1440p with ray tracing on maximum and all the settings turned up to the highest possible settings, and it runs at like 200 frames a second solid, which is very nice.
Pretty good.
So
it's pretty good.
Yeah. So I've been playing through that, and God, man, that game is just so good. I love Doom 2016, but I think Eternal might actually outpace it. I need some more time with it, but it's something, man. It's a game. So
how's that grappling hook treating you?
Oh, I love it. So
I heard
I love
that's
the
where a lot of
platforming.
people-
I don't know the issues with the platforming. Maybe it's on console, it's a little more difficult, but on PC, I think it's great.
I think it was the controller layout. That was like the thing I saw people complaining about with the platforming in regards to that game.
Yeah.
I got pretty far into the Doom 2016, and then I felt like the game should end. I felt like I was at a point when the game should have ended, and then it didn't, and it kept going on, and I was like, well, now I'm exhausted.
Yeah. It is a pretty long game. I mean, I get it, and it is like a lot, just nonstop. So I can kind of understand burning out on it, but it's good nonetheless. I did also get Cyberpunk on the Steam sale. I haven't jumped too far into it yet, but I'm looking forward to getting into that after Doom. I played some of that on Xbox, but jumping into that on PC with max settings is going to be pretty fun. And I will say this is something nobody really mentions with Cyberpunk. There's like some weird like latency issue on consoles with the controller. I never see anybody mention it, but I've done a lot of research on it, and there's some I think it's the engine or something on console. For some reason, the way it runs, if you like move your stick, there's like this massive delay between what you're physically moving and what is showing up on screen. So that's not an issue on PC. So I'm looking forward to playing without that.
I don't
problem.
know that I've experienced that.
Yeah, it's like about the equivalent of like remote play latency, like at all times. And it was noticeable to me on Xbox, at least on Series X. So
The only thing that I will say about Cyberpunk, because I recently got it on my PS5, is I still hate the way that game drives. That game is a nightmare to drive. I wish it was fun, because I would love to just drive around Night City.
Yeah.
And just have fun. But in my opinion, the only usable vehicle is a motorcycle in that game. It's so annoying.
It's tough, man. Yeah, I agree with you. The driving's pretty terrible, to be honest. But aside from that, though, I just want to mention quickly that, because I know obviously Seth is a big fan of this franchise. I've been watching Dragon Ball, the original. Not crazy far in, but I've watched the first 10 episodes, and it's good. It's good. I watched a few back in the day, but I never got super far, so I think I'm already farther than I've ever gotten with the original. But
10 episodes, you're probably at where they're training with Roshi right now?
I think so. I think that's what I'm at. The last episode I watched was where that Rabbit King guy was turning people into carrots.
Oh, yeah.
Which was a pretty funny episode. But I think that's what it's going into after, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you should finish the whole franchise. I mean, I would say it's worth going through, even if like you don't watch the anime. The anime is phenomenal, but I know it's long.
Yeah.
Even if you read the manga, dude, the manga is just as good as the anime. Like they're both phenomenal. I did find a holy grail though that I forgot about until you just talked about this. So when we were kids, Funimation, when they dubbed Dragon Ball Z, they added this awesome techno metal soundtrack from Bruce Faulkner.
Yeah.
And it like was really good. It set the tone perfectly. Changed the complete like tone of the series, because the original series has like this like goofy kind of Japanese soundtrack that I don't really think fits.
It sounds like a 70s anime. Like it sounds like something ancient when it's in Dragon Ball Z. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, and because Dragon Ball Z is way more action packed and darker than Dragon Ball. So for some reason, when they redid Dragon Ball Z and made Dragon Ball Kai, which I think is superior, they took out that soundtrack and put in the original one. Well, I found a man, and this is like a big debate online. It's for years, right? Like people are like, "Oh, I missed the Falconer soundtrack," and people are like, "No, this is the original tone." It's like a big fight. But I found a guy who went through single scene by scene and replaced the Japanese soundtrack with the Bruce Faulkner soundtrack, and it is awesome, dude. It is
that's really
phenomenal.
Intense.
Yeah. And he's done almost every single episode of Dragon Ball Kai, and he gave me the link to it. Obviously, he can't release it, because it's the second he puts it out publicly, like Funimation's gonna like beat him down. Or I guess Sony.
Yeah. Swat him. Yeah.
I guess Sony now, but I've been watching that, and I'm like, this is dope, dude. Because Dragon Ball Kai cuts out like 200 episodes because it cut out all the filler, so it moves through a lot faster, like in the way it should. But there is some unfortunate losses with like the Garlic Jr. saga and stuff.
Yeah, that was one of them. I was reading some people say like watch Kai, but then there are a few filler arcs you should probably still watch, and that was one of them that was like constantly mentioned. So.
Yeah.
Well, like it was great for Gohan, great for Piccolo, because that's like when Goku was absentee dadding it. I mean, I know he was flying back from a destroyed planet, whatever. But no, I fucking love the Garlic Jr. saga, man. Also, you're gonna be so bummed out. Have you seen all Dragon Ball Z, Austin?
Oh, awesome.
I have never seen past the Cell saga. I've watched up to that point through the finale of the Cell saga, but never further.
Okay. One thing, like when I rewatched Dragon Ball recently, I was just so bummed that like Dragon Ball Z didn't spend more time in like world tournaments.
Yes.
Like that shit in the original Dragon Ball is just so much fun. It's awesome.
Yes. Yes, I agree. The world tournament is the best part of Dragon Ball, and it's weird because they make the games called the Tenkaichi series, right?
Yeah.
But that's what the tournament is called, and I don't know. It's weird they moved away from it, I guess. And now in Dragon Ball Super, they have more tournaments. It came back to being like more tournament focused, but by that point, you're so far removed from anything that's like what the original Dragon Ball was. It doesn't even matter because it doesn't feel like the same kind of tournament.
Oh, cool. Is Goku fighting a god in this one? Is he fighting Beerus? No? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
God, that shit's really good. Also, I forgot, man, the Sandland demo came out on on PlayStation and PC and I assume Switch, but I don't know. Meant to download that. Probably gonna download that after we finish recording here and check that out.
Yeah. I downloaded it on Steam. I didn't really have time to play it, but I'm hearing some good things. So, and I think that did the anime just come out today for Sandland?
That I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it did. If not,
I'm not
it's
familiar
soon.
with that series at all.
Yeah, they made a short like 12 or 13 episode anime to coincide with the release of the game that like covers the whole thing because it's like a very condensed manga. Like there's not much to it, and I'm pretty sure it came out like today or this week, but I'll have to look at it. So
there's Pedro put in the chat. He's Yamcha fan club president. There is this amazing, because you guys know, like Yamcha's like a running joke in Dragon Ball, right?
Yep.
There's this like amazing, because he used to be a serious like contender for one of the strongest people in the show, and in Super, they're like going around recruiting their team to go into like this universal tournament, and Yamcha like is watching Goku go to all these people, and he's like, I'm next, buddy. And he starts like training and working out again. He's like, I can't wait. They're gonna come to me. They're gonna ask me to go. And he like it shows him like getting back in shape and whatnot. And then Goku like straight up ignores Yamcha and goes and recruits Frieza. He brings Frieza back from the dead and recruits him. And Yamcha's like, you gotta be shitting me. And he's like all depressed. Yeah, it's great.
I didn't realize he was in the original until I started watching it. I did not know that. So I'm interested to see like all those connections now, having never watched the original before, like with Z. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
But so that's all I've been really up to the past couple of weeks. But I do want to get into our big topic here, and we've talked a lot about PlayStation already today, but I do want to talk about these leaks regarding the rumored PlayStation 5 Pro, which I think it was Tom Henderson at Insider Gaming kind of leaked. And my understanding of it is essentially that this came out because Sony has sent out these specs to third-party developers so that they can start working on games and upgrades for games for this thing for when it releases. That same report claimed that it's coming out this fall, which is like not too far off. Yeah. And there's some pretty interesting things here. I mean, I don't want to get super into tech specs, but just quickly, I'll just say that the GPU is a pretty massive upgrade. However, the thing that I noticed, and Seth, I don't know if you noticed this as somebody, George, no offense, but I know you're not quite as into like the PC gaming scene.
Not even a little. Yep.
Seth, I don't know if you looked at the CPU for this thing, but the CPU is like hardly upgraded at all, which is
it's a problem.
interesting because we're already getting games that are CPU limited. And like, for example, I know the big one right now that's on console is Microsoft Flight Sim, not PS5, but on Xbox. That game runs so poorly on Series X because that CPU just cannot handle it properly.
Yeah.
And there are others. So I found that pretty interesting. But aside from that, I mean, the GPU's again pretty massive upgrade. The main stuff this is kind of supposedly going to have is something akin to DLSS, which is NVIDIA's like 4K AI upscaling software that's built into their new GPUs. Except this one is going to be called, and I gotta make sure I have this right. It is going to be called PSSR, which stands for PlayStation Spectral Resolution. But essentially, it'll take pisser. It'll take like a 1080p display of a game, and then it will upscale it to 4K, which means that the game is still running at 1080p. It's just being upscaled in the back end. So what that does is it allows the game to run at higher frame rates or higher quality settings because it's not spending as much compute power to actually fully run the game in like native 4K on its own. Yeah. So that's kind of
depending on
the big selling point.
Depending on how good that works, that's going to be the make or break because you're right, yes. CPU limited games is an issue. And they did add, I don't know if you saw this, like a boost mode, which is going to take a little bit of the load off of the GPU and give it to the CPU. And it's going to give you about a 10% boost. So this is kind of a bummer for me because I was definitely looking forward to this. But most people are in agreement. This is going to be more of a resolution. It's going to be able to use higher resolutions, but it's not going to give you higher frame rates in games. So like a game that like something like Jedi Survivor that ran kind of poorly, it's probably still going to run poorly on this. But we got to see it in action. Maybe that pisser mode is going to be a game changer. I don't know.
And that's what we're calling it, by the way, moving forward until
for sure.
Maybe it'll be a wicked pisser. You never know.
Yeah, so I'm gonna. Hopefully, this thing's easier to find than the PS4 Pro was because I had to get my PS4 Pro used. I could not find one new anywhere, so I had to get a used one. Thankfully, it's fine. It was almost brand new, but
there's a section in this article that you shared from Eurogamer, and I'm just like I'm struggling to understand the point of this. The console.
Oh,
no, I'm struggling to understand why it's coming out.
Oh.
We talked about this on the show. Like I understand, like we just said about CPUs like being clogged or bottlenecked or whatever. Like I get that. However, we talked on this show about how like it felt like last summer was the first time we actually got next gen games, right? Like that was when Starfield and Final Fantasy 16 came out, and those are the first times I played games where I'm like, okay, this wasn't possible on PlayStation 4.
Right.
So I guess I gotta ask, like, now that PlayStation 5s are finally readily available. I've been trying to convince my friend Mike to buy one forever, right? A PlayStation 4 first. He had a PlayStation 3. We used to have Street Fighter Sundays. It was beautiful. Street Fighter 4 Ultra. What a time to be playing that shit. And then he's just like, yeah, I'm thinking about getting a PlayStation 4. Just as he was thinking about getting a PlayStation 4, they announced a PlayStation 4 Pro. Just as he was thinking about finally getting a PlayStation 4 Pro, they announced a PlayStation 5. Now, as he was finally considering getting a PlayStation 5, they announced a PlayStation 5 Pro. I understand he is just like in a bad cycle of wanting a console and not wanting to get something that's subpar. But like the games, I feel like are mostly not there yet. So sell me on this, please.
Well, I'm not going to be able to because the CPU bottleneck is a real issue to, I think, frame rate. Yeah. And something like Final Fantasy 16, I don't know if you guys noticed this when you were playing it. It looks kind of bad when you're in combat because the game drops the resolution pretty substantially to keep that fast-paced gameplay. Hopefully stuff like that doesn't happen in the new mode, but the CPU is the biggest issue. The reason they can't upgrade the CPU is because it's a compatibility issue. Like it's really hard to once you start upgrading CPUs in consoles to work the backwards compatibility in. So like that's as far as I can tell the reason they're not upgrading the CPU at all. But yeah, hopefully we get some more frames per second. I mean, right now we're struggling to get 4K 30, you know, in certain games, and 4K 60 in most modern like good looking titles is like it's like fiction right now. So I would like to see every game released today have a 60 frames per second solid mode. I don't need higher than that, to be honest with you. When I played God of War Ragnarok at 120 frames a second, I didn't notice a difference. I couldn't tell. But from 30 to 60, I can tell.
Yeah.
And there is a weird thing that happens, and I don't know if it's happening in my head or if it's actually the PlayStation 5. When I'm playing Rebirth, I'll switch it to performance mode just once in a while to like see the massive difference. But when I switch it back from performance mode to graphics mode and it drops back down to 30 frames per second, I can see the chugging. And then I don't know if it's my eyes and my brain like correcting it to where I don't see it anymore. But after like the first couple seconds, it's like it almost like it smooths out. And I'm wondering what that is. But I also noticed this with Jedi Survivor. Once I adjusted to Jedi Survivor, I didn't mind 30 frames per second anymore. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay. This is kind of how we played video games for quite a while at 30 frames a second. We really didn't get 60 frames per second games until late PS3, PS4 generation. So I don't know, man. I don't know where I started going with this rant. But
you were trying to explain to me why this is
I don't
necessary.
think it is.
Okay.
So I would say it's a really important upgrade if we were going to get higher frame rates out of it. And if that pisser mode gives us higher frame rate, you know, I'm all for recommending this to people. But if we're not pissing strong, dude, if it's like a weak stream,
what's the point of pissing?
Yeah, exactly. If we're just like squeezing one out before bed, I'm not into it.
I understand like. You're totally right, Seth, as far as the CPU. Like, they definitely didn't just straight out upgrade it because of the compatibility. I mean, that would certainly cause issues. And frankly, the second they do that, by all means, it's essentially just a new console generation, to be honest.
Right.
So I somewhat get it. But at the same time, like, if you can't upgrade the CPU, what's even the point? To be fair. And if we're already seeing so many games that are limited by the CPU. But you're right. Based off this article from Eurogamer, it essentially sounds like, if anything, we'll see a resolution boost and then like maybe some slightly better looking games as far as like textures if the GPU has more VRAM or anything of that sort. But when it comes to like frame rates, it sounds like it's not really going to change too much, which is
it is weird.
We're used to like marginal improvements with hardware, right? Like I'm not talking about like mid generation refreshes. Like from the DS Lite, actually let's go back from the DS to the DS Lite. I'd say no improvement, right? Like games didn't run better on the DS Lite than they did on the DS. To the best of my knowledge, they didn't.
No,
your hand probably hurt less because the DS Lite felt better than the
there's no
DS.
difference.
Like and then I think with DSi and DSi XL, like I think there was like a slight bump, right? But then like 3DS to 3DS XL, there wasn't like a performance enhancement.
Yeah.
And then PlayStation 3, when they went from like the fat to the slim to the super slim, it was just like hard drives, right? Like it wasn't like a nominal improvement. And then same thing with 360 when it went from the original red ring to the slim. There was nothing there. And then when it went to like the E model, right? Like the one that looked like the Xbox One, like that wasn't a better 360. It was just like, I guess, a more reliable 360. So I guess I'm just wondering, like, this feels kind of gross now. And like, I can kind of understand and excuse it from the PlayStation 4 era, because like that was when 4K started becoming like a really popular term. But like the fact that 4K TVs like still haven't proliferated throughout the country and like they're already talking about 8K, it's like, whoa, buddy. Let's pump the brakes here a little bit.
Stupid.
I have no interest whatsoever in 8K, man. That's such a
No, you know why? Because you just bought a fucking huge ass OLED TV, and how expensive was that? You don't have to say, but like, do you really want to go out and do that again for?
Well,
8K
right, but also
right
it's
now?
like, how much can your eyes perceive? I'm sorry, but could
Yeah.
you really perceive a difference in 4K and 8K? I mean, I guess if you
I
had like a
haven't been able
100-inch TV or something, possibly. But I don't know, man. That's a big mess.
I will say I don't like, so when you look at like the actual specs and you compare them, dude, this thing is straight up like 3 times as strong as the original PS5, except for the processor.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping, and I'm holding out hope that they have some secret sauce in this thing that is really going to upgrade game performance. Because why would they go so hard? You know, like this is what I would consider the type of leap you would expect in a next generation console. And if you're going to go this hard with this hardware, why would they not just call it like a new console generation and upgrade the processor or something? It isn't, or like, why wouldn't they just go like, okay, this is 50% stronger? You know, like that's really all you need. The games don't run that bad on the PS5. If we're just going to get resolution upgrades, like that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't justify this thing's existence. And honestly, I think it has, they must have some sort of plan in place, because otherwise I think they would announce a more economical version of this, the regular PS5, to make more money. So I'm holding out hope that this has some sort of frame rate. Maybe that pisser mode is just game changing, and we
maybe
we'll be, because I don't know,
or maybe it's Toasted from Mad Men, right? Like when they were trying to like sell their fucking cigarettes in the first episode, they're just like, all right, what do you do? It's like, oh, we toasted. It's like, there, right there, it's toasted. It's like, yeah, but everyone toasted. It's like, yeah, but you're the only ones talking about it. It's like, well, does this even fucking mean anything? Like, are we sure? Sorry to interrupt, Austin. You're smarter about this stuff than me.
No, I will say this. I mean, it's actually kind of a good topic, considering I just made this PC upgrade with our GPU. We had a 1060 before, and it did not support DLSS, which, again, by all means, is the same as the old pisser. And the 4070 Super that we purchased does have DLSS. And I will say this. I've only used it in one game so far, which, again, going back to, frankly, one of the most computational challenging games right now, Microsoft Flight Sim. We've got like a relatively strong computer. I have like 32 gigs of RAM. I've got a AMD Ryzen 7 5800X3D, which is like a relatively new Ryzen 7 processor. And even with a 4070 Super, like in 1440p, Flight Sim like struggles. However, the second you throw DLSS on, it runs pretty smoothly at like 80, 90 frames per second. So the difference, though, however, is the fact that I've got a very strong CPU in my computer, and this thing does not. So,
all right, I'm calling timeout from the game. Help me understand something, because you guys care way more about this shit than I do. Like, I still play my GameCube like a lot. Like, just to let you know, like I just don't care about this stuff. I fundamentally don't understand it. So when you say that you have like such a beefy computer, and Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is at this point a 3-year-old game,
yes.
The fact that it's struggling so much, is that a hardware issue or is that a game development issue? Like is the game fucked, or is hardware fucked that it can't even run this game from 3 years ago?
It's a little of both, because the problem is Flight Sim is one of the most advanced games right now, because it's constantly streaming data at all times from like GIS mapping data and high resolution images, like literally every millisecond that you're playing the game. So the thing is, though, that's CPU limited processing. Like, it really needs like a very strong CPU. And so that's why that game still kind of struggles. But the real reason I brought that up, though, George, was the point that DLSS does, in fact, at least for me, give me like a 40-50% performance boost when I turn it on with that game. So I don't know.
When
The pisser could give us a boost.
Okay. When you're talking about like the back end work that this could provide for games, does any of this like trickle down to helping developers? Like, does any of this like make it so that they actually will it make games cheaper if the hardware makes the games look better and be prettier? Like, is there any way to reverse engineer that fact into it being a benefit for developers?
Not really, to be honest, because the problem is the real use of DLSS and AMD has something similar. I forget what it's called. I think it's FSR. And now we've got Pisser. But
we also have Angel Seth with that light.
Yeah, seriously. The real use for it though, George, is if a game is already running in 1080p specifically, it upgrades it to Ultra HD resolutions using AI. If you were to have a game running at like 720 and up-resed it to 1080 with this, it would not look quite as good because you've got less original data to work with, if that makes sense.
Sure, but would this make it so studios don't have to have the extra manpower, time, budget to get beyond 1080?
So to circle back around to that...
Sorry.
No, not really. Because the game would still have to look like very good in 1080. It wouldn't really make a difference. At least, I could be totally wrong, but it wouldn't, in my head, really make a difference whether it's 1080 with DLSS off or 4K with DLSS on regarding like development time and what all they need to put into making it look good.
Yeah, and like I don't mean to sound like a wet blanket. Like this literally happens everywhere else. You buy a phone, they're going to put out a new phone the year after. You buy a car, they're going to put out like a new car the next year. Like this isn't new. I guess what's frustrating to me as someone who doesn't understand all this technical shit is like, dude, we were just starting to get PlayStation 5 games. Like we were just fucking starting. And you're already releasing this new thing that's supposed to like take it to the next level. It's like, fuck does that even mean, take it to the next level? Like we've barely taken it to this level. So
we just got here.
I mean, kind of, right? Like you want to drive home already? Like
let us stop and enjoy this level first.
I would argue, and I think I told you guys this already though, is that like I think they undercooked the PS5. I think they made it way too weak in order to meet like a $500 mark, because I think Sony's terrified of the $600 mark. I think the PS5 Pro though is going to be like $700 or $800. I really do. Just because the PS5 is at 500, right? So
yeah,
they can't release it for 500. They're probably not going to release it for 600. Just because this is a massive upgrade in performance, or not performance, but like in power. So I could see it being $700 or $800. And honestly, like I'm kind of okay with that, just because of inflation, and I know the cost of stuff has gone up.
Yeah,
we're paying $500 for consoles 20 years ago, so it seems like it makes sense to me. I don't know.
I do agree with you. I don't think it's unreasonable, to be honest. However, it just, when it comes to personally for me, I don't care as much about whether it's 4K or not, to be honest. I mean,
right.
That really doesn't matter to me. I really want a solid frame rate. And I guess what it really comes down to is, depending on what this thing can do on that front, that's what matters most to me. So I don't know. I mean, if it could run games at like solid frame rates at 60 frames and it was 650, 700, I would maybe consider it, to be honest, because it is my main console. But that would be the only circumstance for me, I think.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat with you. I think games look pretty enough as it is, dude. I want a solid frame rate. I really wish I could play Rebirth at 60 frames a second, but you can't. The game looks blurry and it's really not great.
I feel like a time has to arrive soon. Maybe this is just the PC gaming side of me, but I feel like there's got to be a point where at some point console games start releasing with graphics settings, like full graphics settings in the menus, because some of this stuff, like for Jedi Survivor, for example, when that came out on PS5 and was so rough, like the big problem was ray tracing was on and there was no way to turn it off.
Right.
I just wish there was a way to like turn down some textures and like really, if I want it to run at 60 frames but look a little worse, like I'm good with that. That's what I want.
You, but I also, but like, I feel like that's just fundamentally misunderstanding the point of console gaming, where like it is supposed to be a stock experience from A to B to C to D. And like I think that's like probably like Nintendo's greatest strength right now is like no one cares about the Switch. They care about what games they play on the Switch. Whereas like we've had so many discussions about the console of the PlayStation 5, let alone the fact that there's still to this day like not a lot of fucking next gen games on it, you know?
Right.
And so I don't know, like this is going to be such, like, I'm fascinated to see where this goes just as like a marketing conversation. Just because, like, how do you convince someone who just spent $500 in the last couple of years, like, after waiting, you know, navigating scalpers and all this shit, finally got a PlayStation 5? How are you supposed to break it to them that there's like a beefier, better PlayStation 5 experience out there? Whether they get the direct benefits or not, like maybe they're like you and they don't care about anything but frame rate, and this isn't offering a frame rate solution. You know, like it's gonna be really interesting to see how they do it. Also, they fucking suck at marketing everything. So like, how the fuck are they supposed to do this? I don't know.
You know, I wonder. I have never looked at this, but I wonder like what the PS4 Pro sold. Like, I don't know if they ever released those numbers, but I'd just be curious. To be fair, that's probably a little bit of a strange example, considering that's the first time they ever did like a full-on like upgrade mid-gen. But
yeah,
as of January 19th, 2020, PS4 Pro sold 14.3 million units.
Still pretty decent.
Well, I think there was never a point, I don't think, where you could find it readily in stores. So I think they sold as much as they made, which I think they're probably happy with. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made the PS5 Pro, I'm assuming.
Yeah. So we'll see, I guess. I mean, like I said, supposedly it's going to come out this fall. I mean, I can't, even if it does come out this fall, I can't see myself buying it right away. There's really nothing coming out that like I feel the need to have like a better console for. Obviously, the big one that would maybe make me do it is when Monster Hunter Wilds comes out. I mean, if there are some like significant improvements to that game on the system, that would probably be what really throws me over the edge next year. Or Grand Theft Auto. Everybody's talking about Grand Theft Auto 5 and what it could do for that game. So,
dude, I feel like I'm so in such a small minority. I could not care less about Grand Theft Auto 6. Like, that game
6.
coming out means absolutely nothing to me. And I'm kind of annoyed now that they announced it and it's all anyone wants to talk about online. Because I'm like,
I didn't like 4 or 5. So yeah.
I thought 5 was such a lame game unless we were talking about the online mode, which was cool at first, and then people just never stopped playing it. And I'm like, stop. Go find a new game, dude, you know? Because we had so much fun when it first came out, but
yeah,
I didn't like the base game of GTA 5 very much. I thought that was kind of lame, to be honest with you.
Rockstar's got a problem for me where their games are like far too long. That's what I've noticed.
Yeah.
They're like that. Grand Theft Auto 5 had like a 20-hour campaign, which is absurd. So,
yeah,
anyway.
and the 3 protagonists I felt like was a very strange choice.
I love that though, because I thought with each of the protagonists you played a different way. Like I really thought it was like the id, the ego, and the super ego. Like the way I played each of those different. Like whenever I wanted to do like insane shit, I just played as Trevor. You know, I would never do insane shit with Franklin or any of the other guys. Two more questions before we bump on from this topic. I assume we're wrapping it up soon, right? Can you explain to me why ambition on previous consoles was more attainable than ambition now? And when I say that, I'm talking about like 256 players for MAG on PlayStation 3. Like that fucking worked on PlayStation 3. And I guess, let's see, what else would it be talking about? No Man's Sky eventually working on PlayStation 4, right? Eventually. But like, why why ambition on these newest consoles? Like when you're talking about Microsoft Flight Simulator, why is that so unachievable? Like, why are people doing stuff they can't technically do, whereas before they did the most they could actually do?
It is a good question. I feel like we're at a point where detail and visual fidelity is almost, for the big companies, more important than like any other part of the game. And so, I mean, this is just me speaking off the cuff.
Do we know game developers? Like, we need a dev on to.
I know we need to have some devs on, but
I think it's simpler than that. I think we're in a different era now where there has been so much money injected into gaming that the experimental stage of gaming is just over, right? Like, MAG came out at 256 players because PlayStation needed a win, right? And they were like, all right, how can we do this? Like, what are we going to do? We're so far away from that point now, and with games just exponentially going more and more and more as far as money wise, like it's nuts when you look at some of these numbers. These companies can't afford to be experimental anymore, and that's why I think gaming in the AAA space has gotten so kind of like stale, especially for me. Like I'm just like, oh, everything feels the same, everything looks the same, everything's copying each other. It's because these companies are just on like such a needle. They have to make sure that this game is going to make a profit. Otherwise, they're going to make it. You're going to take a massive loss. So yeah, I think when you look at something like MAG, that's like such a cool experimental idea. It's just a very different time and place. And I think that's what it really comes down to. I think you could still see some of that stuff like that in like, you know, the indie space or, you know, some of these smaller games. They're doing like really cool stuff, but in the AAA space, man, it's like, I don't think you're going to see any more like fun, cool experimental games from big developers.
It feels like every company we loved in the late 90s, early 2000s has become a corporation now.
Yeah.
And yeah.
For sure.
That was one question. Oh, please.
No, I was just going to say, frankly, it's because everybody did love them. And their games sold, and I guess it's just the cycle. So.
That was question one. Question two. There's a gun to your head right now, Austin. There's a gun to your head, Seth. PlayStation 5 Pro, Switch 2.
You like actually freaked me the fuck out for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's a metaphorical gun to your head. Bang, bang.
I immediately looked at my camera and I'm like, what?
You think I would say that like that? Like that's just the casual, like, oh hey man, there's a fly on your ear. Like I wouldn't say it like that. I'd be like,
I don't know.
Seth, get out of there!
Seth,
there's a bad man.
There's
a
man
with a gun man.
There's a man in your house. He's approximately 6 feet 2 inches tall. He's standing behind you. He's got a gun approximately 2.5 inches from your head.
He's eating the last.
You guys would have seen me use this 3D printed Buster sword to kill a man.
No, Switch 2. For sure.
Not even close.
Not even close. Yeah. Nintendo.
Seth?
Yeah, you answer, Seth.
I don't know. I gotta see it, right? Like, I gotta see it. That's all I gotta say.
Right,
I haven't seen either one.
Finish. I can't believe we kicked it to Seth for that. That's fucking sucks. Austin, go for it.
To go back to the previous question about games being experimental and, you know, frankly, I guess goals or dreams being attainable for developers, I think Nintendo's kind of the only one that's consistently doing that right now. And for me, I know not everybody's in agreement on this, but for me, I think Nintendo is by far the most exciting of the big three. And they have been for years. I mean, really, since the Switch got into full swing, I feel like the PS5 and Series X have just kind of dragged along, to be honest with you. I mean, I still love the PS5. Series X, not so much, but I just feel like the Nintendo games in general have been more interesting to me.
You remember how when you were a kid, like either your parent or someone you knew parent had like audio equipment that they were really fucking excited about, like a tuner or whatever, that like there would catch like all their CD shit and like export to like all these like random fucking speakers. Like, you remember that person in your life?
Yeah.
That's how I feel about my Series X, where I'm just like, no, like this is the best 4K Blu-ray player there is. It's got the Spectrum app. The PlayStation doesn't have the Spectrum app. This is saving me $12.50 a month on my cable bill because I don't have to have a cable box out of my living room. I don't have to run the fucking wire under the baseboard. Like that's like how I feel about my Series X. And like, oh yeah, and when I'm too lazy and the PlayStation controller is too far away, I can play Armed and Dangerous or Peggle. The 360 version or Missplosion Man on this. It's pretty sweet.
I mean, for me, it's like I don't know. Like I said, I gotta see what the Switch 2 looks like, because if it's like a minor upgrade from the Switch, right? Like the Switch is arguably just like a very minor upgrade from the Wii U. It's not that much more powerful, and it's like, okay, well, I don't play Mario games. I don't play, Smash Brothers. I don't play like any of the Nintendo like franchises, So it's a hard question for me to answer. Like
it's Pokemon, Xenoblade, and Monster Hunter. Those are like your three go-tos.
I play Monster Hunter on every console except Nintendo.
Well, you started Rise on.
Yeah, because I was supposed to play with Austin, and he never played with me, so I bought it on PC.
I still have it.
Yeah.
Don't have it on PC.
Yeah.
Final follow-up question. Are you guys getting Princess Peach Showtime?
No. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. After what I just said, that's the game I'm going for, dude.
No.
I pre-ordered it too, Seth. That's great news. Fuck you,
Nintendo's
Seth.
so innovative and chasing dreams, Austin. Can't wait to see what the next Super Mario game looks like. I bet.
I can't either. Mario Odyssey was drastically different, so I'm excited.
That's a 3D Mario game.
You know for a fucking fact the next one's gonna be 3D, Seth. God, pull your head out of your ass. They just did Wonder. God, you're so stupid.
Yeah, I guess I'm so dumb for thinking Super Mario Wonder was a little similar to the last Super Mario game. Whatever.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills when people are talking about Super Mario Wonder being that amazing. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty fine. Yeah.
I'm in the same boat. It was okay.
Honestly, Mario vs. DK, whatever that one, like that game is so much better to me than Mario Wonder.
Pedro said new Mario game. He's an actual plumber. Dude, that would be such a funny idea. Like it's like plumbing simulator, but it's Mario on Nintendo consoles.
God.
That would actually be like that's a banger idea.
Brilliant.
We don't PvP by Mamma Mia.
We've never seen him at his day job. He's been too busy killing Koopas for 30 years.
Has he been paying union fees this entire time, or like was he kicked out of the union?
Who knows?
Years ago. He probably can't do plumbing work because he's not in a union.
I will say this: as excited I am for the next Switch after upgrading this computer, I said this to you guys over text the other day. It makes me want a Steam Deck a little more, because now that I've got
Steam Deck's great.
The games on here, I'd love to be able to just play them on the go and then send my save over and play them in better quality over here.
Yep, and it just works, dude. And it's so good. Steam Deck's so good.
It's a very novel idea. So,
yep.
But
I love my deck.
You love your deck, okay?
Play with my deck every day, dude.
Well, soon you can play with your deck and you can enjoy a little bit of pisser. So
yep.
How many terafloppies is your deck?
I don't know.
You gotta get a floppy deck?
Floppy deck? Yeah, sometimes.
Full flops?
Sometimes.
All right, guys. I guess we'll wrap it up there. Anybody else have anything they want to add that's not sexual in nature?
I gotta go give my dog a bath, which is gonna be a 2-hour process.
Play Final Fantasy 2. That's my closing argument.
Play Final Fantasy 4, sexy Neanderthals. God, I'm sick of it.
Play the Sandland demo.
Yeah, you fucking punk.
Hey, I want to say this while we're talking about Sandland before we wrap. Here's my final comment for you. Andy and I went and watched, because they brought it back in the theaters for 2 days only, End of Evangelion, in the movie theater over the weekend. Okay. George, you've seen this movie, right?
Sure have, yeah.
You know how it starts, right?
Fucking gooning, yeah.
Seth, do you know how this movie starts? The iconic sequence?
Famously, yes.
Of course, it comes on. You just hear groaning in the crowd and people that start like chuckling and laughing. And I'm like, some guys started clapping. And I was like, this is the only way you could watch this scene in a group setting.
If I remember correctly, I fucking hate Evangelion. Doesn't he pull the cover and her titty flops out? Isn't she 14?
That's right.
Yeah, but he's 14.
Canonly 14.
He's 14.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that like did they censor it at all, or are they still just
still full thing?
It's still out there.
Wow, I can't believe they're still doing that. Pretty amazing. Good for them.
I mean, he's 14. She's 14.
There's also, to be fair, they're 14, but there's also a sequence later in the movie where like a grown ass woman kisses the 14-year-old for like an extended period of time, like straight up on the lips. So that was. I mean,
this show isn't about how awesome humanity is. Just so we're clear, right? It's not like look at everything we're doing. Look at everything we're doing. How terrible
everything is. Yeah.
I get so annoyed at mecha anime because I just want to see giant robot battles. I do. That's all I care. I swear to God. That's why I loved Iron Blooded Orphans so much, because there's so many more like robot battles in it. And I'm going to say this, and I want everyone to listen to me and understand, dude.
I'm glad there was no politics in Iron Blooded Orphans. I'm glad
there was, but it wasn't so annoying.
Child warriors, the child soldiers.
I don't give a fuck about Gundam politics. I don't care. I want to see laser swords going through cockpits, dude. I want to see people screaming and blasting each other into oblivion. That's what I want. I watch Gundam for that. I don't give a fuck about Zeon.
I mean, Char was right, but whatever. The last 2 episodes of Evangelion, I think, are so much fucking better than End of Evangelion. I can't stand the movie. I don't get it.
Yeah, because I watched all of Evangelion and I watched those last 2 episodes and I'm like, well, that was a waste of my time. Now I'm done.
Fuck out of here.
The last 2 episodes are something.
You wouldn't know good art.
Erased that anime from my memory.
If it jumped up and bit your floppy dick. Yeah.
That's what I feel about your stupid art movies and anime. I want to see
the beginning of Evangelion
getting their heads chopped off. That's what I want to see.
So what? Okay, let me ask you that. Now we're like on this roll, and I know we're trying to wrap up. But like, what would you say is the best anime for that, Seth? What is like the most iconic you can think of when it comes?
G Gundam.
Okay.
What are you talking? Like the last 5 episodes, or the villain is there because it was unrequited love. What the fuck are you talking about? She literally turns to stone. You dumbass.
The entire rest of the anime is
5 episodes is 1/10 of the fucking series. It's 50 episodes long.
It's the whole series is Gundam's trading hands. They copied the World Martial Arts Tournament in Gundam in the 2nd season, and they just had a whole Gundam martial arts tournament. It's awesome.
And the entire time, Rain is jealous because he's spending more time with whatever Shayna, who is the chick from Neo Sweden.
Yeah,
Aberdeen. You know, the blue-haired
Rain
chick.
Sucks. Yeah. Rain sucks. She's stupid.
I'm just gonna say this: if you're looking for a good mech piece of media, Pacific Rim is all you need.
Yeah.
No one's ever been upset about Pacific Rim. Seth, I think you would like Witch from Mercury, by the way.
I'm not gonna watch that. I can't. I gave up on Gundam a long time ago.
Okay.
Over it. You know what I watch now?
Eureka 7, like a fucking loser. Okay. Yeah.
Pedro says he's going to have all 3 of us arrested. Why is that, Pedro?
I can't be held responsible. No, I can't be held responsible for Seth's shitty takes. Like, don't hold. Like, I don't. This isn't like a Rico
by the
case.
Way, George, in case you're curious, he said Celtics fan first. So he's actually prioritizing your arrest. To be fair,
they're first in the East. I agree. Yeah, they're like 8 games ahead of Milwaukee at number 2. Yeah, they are first in the East.
The only reason that makes any sense is he must also hate Evangelion, but love Gundam, right? No, yeah, that's the only way all of us getting arrested makes sense.
No, I'm getting arrested because I'm a Celtics fan. Also, the Bruins won tonight. They beat Ottawa like 5-2. How are the Islanders doing? Are they making the playoffs? I can't remember.
Well, on that happy note, go watch Evangelion. Watch it in a room full of legal adults. Make sure no children are watching. And with that, we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to this episode of Frameskip. Don't forget you can find the show on social media at FrameskippPod. That's on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also follow us each individually on Twitter. George is at Shortbox Summary, Seth is at Seth the 90s Kid, And I, Austin Eller, am at Austin J. Eller on Twitter. If you've got a question, comment, or topic you'd like to hear discussed on the next episode of Frameskip, you can do so by submitting it to us on social media. Email us at frameskippodcast@gmail.com or visit bit.ly/frameskipq. That's bit.ly/frameskipq. The show is typically live on YouTube every week, either on Tuesday or Wednesday. You can find our YouTube channel at bit.ly/frameskiplive. Don't forget to subscribe and be notified when we do go live, typically at about 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.